Hello, and welcome to VOD of Consciousness with Sientir. I'm Sientir, and I like pretzels. Also, you can support me on Patreon at patreon.com/Sientir, and you should be able to find a link to the Discord channel that I've set up in the description, if I've done that right. Okay, so last time we managed to get to the Central Transfer Chamber, which is the outpost where we are. Interestingly enough, it is really close to Yak's Bend, just deep underground. So I think that's rather interesting. It's the furthest south part of the northern Shiver Peaks, I guess. Like, you can see some of the stuff in Iron Horse Mine kind of goes up to the same sort of latitude, longitude, whatever, the same height on the map. But we need a time for heroes. We need to go to fight the Great Destroyer. We're going to talk to the priest. We're hopefully going to throw an Alkar's concoction at some random destroyer, maybe the Great Destroyer himself. That sounds suitably epic, right? So we plan to strike the Great Destroyer head-on. Without the powers of the Great Dwarf, your attack has little chance of success. However, given the size of your party, you may be able to slip through. Will you continue with this plan? The Great Destroyer must be stopped. There's no other way. I do not know if we will beat this first try. When I did this on my Ranger previously, I did manage it in one try. I learned stuff that has influenced, shall we say, how I've set up this team. I don't know if I'll regret not bringing Extinguish on one of the monks. We shall find out. So, this feels like a really good spot to get a screenshot for the thumbnail. So I'm going to just send my dudes back that way a little bit. This over here, probably Primordius. Probably an Elder Dragon. It apparently oozes magic. So, yeah, there you go. Now everybody can say that they've probably seen Primordius. But we need to defeat this Great Destroyer guy here, and for that we need to take out this guy and run through the lava fields and all of that business. Yeah, so this might be a little rough. We're going to fight a lot of these guys kind of in isolated incidences. There's a few guys that'll be coming after us. I'm going to do what I can to try to help my party not burn to death. Like, tell them to come over here. Let's just go ahead and throw this concoction now so I can remember it. Okay, we need to take a couple of these other destroyers out. Nothing too dangerous, really. That was a little earlier than I wanted to use that, but whatever. I will say, being a highly ranged team makes attacking these guys across the lava easier. A guy dropped a Wayfarer's Mark. Of course he did. Okay. Well, if we beat this fast enough, they'll give it to us in the thing. Okay. Trying to take these guys out. Avoid burning to death. Okay, you know what? Whatever. We're gonna go grab it. Like crazy people. Burning is a powerful condition, but it's not as deadly as one might think being on fire would be. It's 7 health degen, which is definitely strong, don't get me wrong, but there is some argument that it might have been good. Apparently they're trying to take that one out. Might have been good to let's see, have we... I just want to take a moment to chill over here. Hopefully everybody's doing okay on energy. Like, Livia right here is using Soul Barbs, which is a spell I normally wouldn't use. But you can see the effect is like 30 damage whenever an enchantment or hex is cast on him, and we're casting a lot of hexes. I kind of don't... Well, whatever. Let's charge into the Great Destroyer's grill. Breath of the Great Dwarf to get the party going. We're just going to need to kind of suck it up and take his hits, because the amount of damage, and you can see we are absolutely wrecking his health, but the amount of damage he deals... Where did he... Oh, he's doing his hunker down thing. He does this where he's like, I'm not here. The Great Destroyer? Who's that? And then he's like, now I'm going to breathe fire on all of you. But you can see when he's actually like fighting us, he wrecks himself, because we have so much like anti-don't touch us stuff going on. Hey, and we did it. Ready for... This is an amazing cutscene, so I'm just going to let it play.
death of their master, destroyers lost their coordination. Jalis and his dwarves pursued them into the depths of the earth. Legends were born that day. And while this threat was ended, legends would continue. In the years to come, new threats would arise in Tyria. New creatures would stir. New sacrifices would be made. And the greatest threat of all was yet to come. A threat that would consume the entire world. And call upon the greatest of heroes. The children of the legends.
Such a cool cutscene. You could see the beginnings of the pale tree there, by the way. I need to... Okay, maybe I don't need to sneeze. I don't know. Okay, so there's a bunch of people to talk to here, which is why I didn't have the Great Destroyer at the end of the last one. We have the Spirit of Draknar here. Now, if you recall, down here is Draknar's Forge. So we'll learn more about him in a moment. And you can see the epilogue and then takes place back up here in the battle depths. But so there's going to be a lot of people to talk to here. I do really like that cutscene. It is interesting though that it feels like it sets up Primordus, kind of be the Elder Dragon du jour, as it were. But the Guild Wars 2 launches off with Zaitan. Anyway, Draknar here says, "Thank you, Carmen Angelus. Without your courage and leadership, the world would have fallen to the depraved machinations of the Destroyers. You truly are heroes among heroes, and your legend will never be forgotten." Bunch of experience points, bunch of dwarf rep points. We can talk to him again, and he says, "I am Draknar, ancient leader of the dwarves. Our time as a race is drawing to a close. Those who have undergone the rite have become weapons that will conquer or perish trying. It is their final duty to hold the line. I come to you now in thanks for what you have done, not only for my people, but for all of Tyria." Let me actually, while I'm thinking about it, quiet the music down a little bit. I'd raise it up for the cutscene, as you may have noticed, but... "Our ancient treasures are yours. Please take this now and claim your reward. When you are ready to leave, I can send you back to the Eye of the North." Thank you, Draknar. He gives us Draknar's key, which is just this item right here. So we have a bunch of chests. I have a bunch of pretzels. As we established, I like pretzels. So let's start actually by talking to these guys here. So some of these will have a bunch of dialogue that will pop up. I'll try to catch it. But High Priest Alcar here says, "Hail, friend. My people may no longer live to greet you in the ways of old, but I shall raise my mug to you in one final salute. Where dwarves have fallen, a hero has risen in their place." Roy says, "I still have debts to collect and shields to pound. I could use someone to watch my back, though. Come talk to me when you're up for some no-holds-barred action. Hoorah!" Orzar says, "Jalis told us a hero would come, but he also said our battle was not yet finished. The rite of the Great Dwarf calls us out. Calls us. We go." And Budger Blackpowder says, "Ha! Now that was an explosion. It was so beautiful, it made me weep." One of our good old pyromaniac-type characters. Here we have a transformed scout. It says, "For a human, you're quite remarkable. Your name may even go down in dwarven legends for your deeds." The soldier says, "Those, sir, I think their magics defeated the destroyers, when clearly our dwarven might turned the tide." And just a little bit of an interesting contrast there. The golems being the magic there that they'd be referring to. And this Mender says, "So you managed to survive, eh? I'll drink a pint of ale to you." So here we have the chests for each profession, like Necromancer's chest, Mesmerist's chest, Ritualist, Assassins, Dervish. So all of these are going to be casting stuff They all follow the same mold, just one for each attribute line. I don't care about those. There's some assassin choices. There's a dazed set of daggers, which is kind of neat. It would actually be possible... Well, no, this character doesn't have the energy throughput for that. Like a... Yeah. Probably that would be best on an actual assassin. I don't really need any of these. I've got some cool daggers on this character already. As you may recall, I have... Actually, I have Alari's double blades. Maybe it's another character that I'm thinking of that has fiery ones, but I already have Alari's double blades that are zealous daggers. I don't need another pair. And I don't need vampiric. This character has enough energy problems. I'm not looking for that stuff anyway. There are a couple of scythe options as well. These are all kind of jadish colored versions of like a sun's whatever. This one's probably... Like, they're all reasonable, but this character doesn't really need... I mean, I have this. This is fine for what I want. I want a Furious Scythe anyway, so that one is fine. I'm probably... Like, I don't want anything from the Monk's chest. The Ranger chest is going to be a bunch of bows. There are actually 5 different types of bows in the game, and they all have slightly different properties. They all have slightly different attack rate, speeds, accuracies, things like that. So, for example, Horned Bow has an innate built-in armor penetration to it, I believe. So it's really good for spiking. Longbow is kind of your middle of the road. Recurve Bow has kind of the the flattest arc path, but has a kind of a slow attack rate. So it's one of the best bows for interrupting because the projectile is relatively fast. Has a medium-ish range. I forget all the details. You can look them up on the wiki. Short bow is a pretty good combat bow. It has the highest attack rate for bows, shared with the flat bow, but it has the shortest range. The flat bow has a much longer range, but it has and the same sort of high attack rate, relatively speaking, for bow, but it has the projectile arc is very broad, so it's very easy for it to miss. So there's a lot of different properties to bows. I'm generally fond of recurve and short. I don't really care about long. Flat is usually too inaccurate for me. And like horn bows are fine. I just don't tend to use them as much. Short bows are really nice for... Their accuracy is pretty good. I don't think it's quite as good as recurve. I think they have a slightly broader flight path, but as you can see, there's a lot of nuanced different types of bows in this game. But short bow is really nice from a standpoint of being more accurate than a flat bow and having a faster attack rate, or having that faster attack rate. Elementalist chest and is going to be more casting stuff. Warrior's chest is just like, do you want an axe? Do you want a hammer? Do you want a sword? The sword is cool in that it's the longsword skin, so that's pretty neat. I don't really have a need for it, though. I've got Murukai's blade, which I'm quite happy with. And I think there's another... No. Why do I even have this here? I don't know. So I don't need a... I don't need another sword than that one. I have Victos Maul for a hammer. Victos Maul is better anyway. I prefer the adrenaline gain over... a chance for a little bit of armor penetration. I mean, it's a reasonable amount of armor penetration. Anyway, I was looking at some of the options earlier, and what I actually think is I want one of these. No, I don't need Drockner's Courage. That's basically identical to the Deldrimmer Javelin that I'm using from the End of Prophecies, being Furious. But I want this one right here. So this one is just your typical standard Sundering one. This one increases daze duration, and I actually inflict daze a lot with this Paragon. So this is easily sort of the one that I want. So I'm going to exchange for that one. And add it to my collection of stuff. And then I'm going to eat a pretzel. Because I was holding a pretzel. Okay. So, with that business out of the way, let's begin all these dialogues. So Ogden's first one, and he says, I shall carry your name with me to the dwarves fighting deep inside the caverns. Now... we know from Guild Wars 2 that he eventually does undergo the Rite of the Great Dwarf, which is something that is kind of spelled out to be kind of an inevitable thing. What he ends up doing afterwards, though, is joining the Dormant Priory. So I don't know exactly what's up. He indicates here that he's going to go deep inside the caverns, but apparently if he does, he turns back from that. Okay, so the next bit is more of an active dialogue thing. You can see down there is Parafearshot, Gwen, Vec, and Jorah. And there's some groups of like Asura over there and other various people. So if we come down here, Gwen says, "These bad guys should know by now. You can't stop a real hero." Parafearshot responds, "When you set your mind on victory, the world has no chance but to hear you roar. There's a difference between a hero and a corpse." And Gwen responds, "The Char is right, this time. I suspect the world has not heard the last of you." And Jorah says, "A human agreeing with the Char? Without insults? Strike me senseless." And Vec says, "I am amazed they even talk to each other. There may be hope yet." And then Gwen wanders off. Uses Hexbreaker for whatever reason. And then the rest of them kind of depart. So they have different groups. I'm just going to kind of go through them over here, just talking to the different people. Some of them will spawn dialogue. So here, hearing Carmen Angelus's heroic tales gives me real hope for Ascalon. No matter what the Char boast, we will reclaim Ascalon one day. These unfortunately don't pop up down here. I wouldn't let myself believe it before, but Carmen Angelus has shown me that there are still heroes in the world, even after the horrors of the Searing. It may take time, but I have hope. Thank you, Carmen Angelus. Now we're going to start getting credits roll and fireworks. So Captain Lingmar says, "The fight isn't over, my friends, not until Ascalon is reclaimed." Flymaster Micah says, "Never attempt a philosophical discussion with a Norn. If you can't hunt it, drink it, or toss it, they're just not interested." I don't know where that came from, but Gwen says, "Ascalon may not yet be ours again, but thanks to you, it's safe from one threat. The Char we will handle in time." Artificer Molinix says, "I have recorded your deeds so that we never forget the heroes who saved Tyria." And Anton's lurking over here. He says, "Who would have thought that on that day in Sirmia, when I awaited my execution, I would end up here? Perhaps I can still make amends for all my misdeeds." We have some random Vanguard. They salute us. Monk says, "I'd celebrate the end of the Destroyers if it meant the end of the Char as well." This one says, "We must use what we learn in our fight with the Destroyers against the Char." So we have to remember, right? The Ebon Vanguard just came through to help us fight back against the Destroyers. They've seen some stuff now. Oh, there's Daniel Ducia. And this guy says, "The Destroyers may have fallen, but the Char live on. Our work is not complete." Okay, so then we have a group of Canthan henchmen. So these are henchmen that came from Cantha. I forget if they have... I know they have dialogue when we talk to them. So Talon says, "As always, it has been my honor to fight beside you." He's a Tengu. And then we have Zoe. "May the arrow of your life always fly true, and may you find your target at the end of flight." And Lo Shah says, "Look at these pants. I mean, look at these pants. All this time, still as sparkly as ever. Just fabulous." He plays into Mesmer stereotypes. Okay, so we got a bunch of Asura over here. Dwarf says, "It's genius. All we have to do is adjust the defibrillator and cause an overload in the rear activity gate drive." Who will do what now? Sorry, missed that. "Oh, probably nothing, but possibly everything. We could rule the world, or it could blow us all to smithereens. I could get a crew together for that in 3, maybe 4 hours. Look, Carmen Angelos just finished saving all of us. Can't we wait to endanger the world again until after supper at least?" Fine. Yeah, I wish this dialogue showed up in the chat window, but it does not. So Vec says, "After all this time, I admit I find you interesting." Doff says, "Careful with those gates. You never know where you'll end up." There's a certain elder here who says, "Fascinating. This Destroyer situation. If we look into history, we can see a similar parallel in Ore." Which is just probably referencing the Elder Dragons. This certain Trooper says, "All right, I'll admit it. I'm starting to warm up to you, human." Just looking around to see if I was missing anyone. Lork says, "You still owe me one, Buka." Remember he said that we'd owe him one way back when. Ula says, "Since I left my workshop to help you, everything at home went to kerblutz. I might have to rehire that good-for-nothing Blim to help me get things back under control." Mamp over here says, well done, Buka. I must admit, this unlikely crew of Asuran humans is the finest I've ever worked with. We'll have to hire your kind more often. Asuran Commoner over here just says, smashing job with the whole save the world business. Cheers. Worker Golem says, automatic response. Good job, Buka. Blim says, Ula's lab is in shambles. Now is my chance to show her my ability to take up the slack, or set myself on fire using her tools. Either way, she'll be impressed. Okay, so up here we have the Prophecies henchman. Devona says, we have cheated Grenth's grip once more and lived, and yet I wonder, perhaps it is time we hung up our blades, let someone else fight the monsters. Menlo says, I know how you feel, Devona, but so long as there's evil in the world, we cannot give up. And Sin says, Baldy is right. As long as there are bad guys set on fire, we have to carry the torch. And, you know, burn them to cinders, right? Or, yes, that's what I was trying to say. I guess so, and after Carmen Angelos' great victory, how can we do less? For Ascalon and for glory. Unless we all die trying, but that's never stopped us before. Eve's a necromancer there. So, one exception here is Herda is actually from Ilona. But I don't think there are any other Ilonan henchmen here, which is kind of intriguing. Oh yeah, did this Vanguard helmet say anything? This is an important question that must be answered. The cold metal glints in the light. You're filled with a strange and wishful hope for the future. Okay, so we need to go ahead and talk to all of these guys. So, for those of you who might remember, you can actually find Sin, Devona, Menlo, and Aiden in pre-searing Ascalon. I don't think Eve is there. Sin says, Menlo is so sweet, isn't he? Makes me think he's covering for something. I keep remembering a time in Kaineng when we ran into his old acquaintances. Twin acquaintances. Just thinking about that makes me want to burn something. Yeah, there was a monk and a ritualist that he knew from there. Both female, of course. She's a little bit jealous. Herda says, is that it? Is it over? Can I go to sleep now? I know the feeling sometimes. Menlo says, I have journeyed from Ascalon to Cantha to Ilona. I have battled undead, braved a plague, and defeated ancient gods. But my greatest deed will always be winning Sin's burning love. Aiden says, I have trekked down many paths. I am glad to have had you by my side on so many of those journeys. Devona says, I remember the day a young hero came to Ashford trying to make a difference in the world. We've all come a long way since the innocent days of protecting people from bees. Now, that would be more meaningful if my character was from Prophecies. At that time, you indeed, as a bee falls down, were protecting people from bees. In fact, right next to her. So that's a fun reference. Eve says, wasn't it wonderful, Adam? Oh yes, and you too. Don't worry. The story isn't over yet. There's still more to come after you die. Adam is the name of a skull that she keeps with her because she is playing into necromancer stereotypes. And Lina here says, come on, let's get out of here before your head swells anymore. I can only protect you if you still fit behind my shield. Funny. Okay. So we talked to them. We talked here. The Shining Blade over here. Let's go talk to the Shining Blade. Here's Livia. She says, you survived. I'm pleased. When I return to Kryta, I shall say that heroes still exist in the world. But first, there's another place I must go. A little city called Ara. How she is going to get to a sunken city is beyond me, but apparently she gets there somehow. I don't entirely know what's going on with that. Bartholo says, there is no way we can lose the fight with heroes like you around. There is much for the Shining Blade to do before Kryta is once again at peace, but we will find a way. And Haida says, come talk to Bartholos and Gad's encampment. The Shining Blade could still use your help. That's how we recruit her. Which is something that I'll do at some point in time. Just another Paragon hero. There's actually quite a few of them. Let's go over to the Norn and finish up with a Char, shall we? So the Weaponsmith says, with no destroyers, what's to guard? I've taken up armor crafting. And this guard says, what a glorious battle. Invite me again next time. Okay, Bearer has blessed Carmen Angelis. I've rarely seen anyone, even an Orn, with such courage. And Olaf says, I taught Carmen Angelis and companions everything they know, from how to hold a sword to what spells to use in combat. It's all because of me. And Eagle says, stuff it between the horns, Olaf. My stories are amazing, but nothing compared to those of... And that's supposed to be character name, but there's it's missing. All right. Hail to Carmen Angelis. The only human as brave as an Orn, and the only hunter as good as me. Olaf is full of himself, as you may have noticed. I don't know if there's any other dialogue here that they say out loud. let's go ahead and talk to them individually. Gunner Poundfist says, "You're always welcome in Gunner's Hold. I would make a great statue of you if you were just a bit taller." Joris says, "Thanks to you, I can become the bear once more. For that, I am forever grateful. We will hunt together again." Magni says, "You're quite the fighter. Perhaps I have finally met my match." His match is definitely a ritualist with Signet of Spirits. Just FYI. Olaf Olafsson says, "Looks like you're taking after the good old Olaf after all. Slaying a great beast before it destroys an unknown world reminds me of a time when I was young, before my first Ailmoot." And Eagle over here says, "Ha! Quite the tale, little one. I'm jealous. I'll have to recount my role in such great deeds, and make sure Olaf doesn't take all the credit for what you have accomplished." Sif says, "Impressive hunting, even for a human. That is one beast even I would break a sweat slaying. Although if you talk to Olaf, I am sure he will claim to have done it before his first Ailmoot." As he did. Hogni Truthseeker says, "The end is but a beginning of something larger than anything we have ever seen." Olrun says, "Norn value their individuality, but you have proven that leadership has advantages as well. Thank you for showing me the way." And Ulfin Longeye says, "I didn't see this coming, and I see everything. Then again, I might have been paying too much attention to the loud creak of your shoes." Apparently my shoes are loud. Here we have a Norn guard captain who says, "That was the most glorious battle ever. We should do it again." And the bear spirit looks up upon us with approval. And then here we have the char. But first, actually, we should pop over here. Zandra says, "I still can't return home, so I might as well see what trouble I can get into. Care to come?" And Kamu says, "Stop by Gunner's Hold and participate in Magni's tournament. Surely I could learn a thing or two from a hero such as yourself." So if we participate in the tournament, we can potentially run into him and recruit him as a hero to join us as well. He's a dervish, as can be probably identified. You can see why, by the way, I didn't want to try to add this to the previous episode. So we have one group of people left to talk to, as the credits still roll for Hubris, apparently. And that is the char. I don't think they have any pop-up dialogue if I stand near them, though. So let's just start by talking to Pyre. He says, "You show the cunning of a char and have no fear. For that you have my respect, human. When the time comes that we must fight again, I shall not aim at you." Rowan says, "Human, your odor is like a frogman's on a humid afternoon. My nose, my eyes, they burn!" Gron says, "Pyre led us since we were newly weaned cubs. I would kill for him. Let us hope for your sake, meet, that you do not fall from Pyre's favor." I do feel like with the transition to Guild Wars 2 that some of the char's personality was toned down a little bit. They're all very aggressive about referring to you as like mouse and meat and things like that in this game. And they definitely changed that some with the next one. Hey, Nolan North, AK and everything. Oh, Carrie Walgren. I recognize that name from is it Tabletop? The thing that Will Wheaton does. And Steve Bloom, of course, has a fantastic voice. I think he might do Pyre. He does a lot of char stuff. Cowell says, "I've been a part of many horrific and strange things in my life, but nothing equals being rescued by a human." Bon Moore says, "Did you have something to say to me, human?" I didn't think so. Seer says, "I love the smell of burnt flesh in the morning." No offense, human. And the Siege Devourer says, "Click, click, clack." The last one is not a click. And then we have Blobby Clone, who says, "Glop, glop, glop." And with that, we've talked to all of the NPCs in this very expansive victory zone. So I'm just going to go ahead and make my way back up to Draknar. I imagine King Jalos either is already dead or is off in the depths fighting. And I got my spear. And this is going to be really abrupt, but Draknar just introduces himself again, and we can ask him to send us back to the Eye of the North. And he does just that. And that is going to heartily bring this very lengthy episode to a close. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and wave goodbye. And until next time, everyone, take care. Bye-bye.